What is up, everybody? Ethan Hammond here, strength and rehab coach. We're going to quickly talk through what are the rules of mobility. So when I'm going through my mobility work, what are the things that I need to be keeping in mind in order to, one, not be self-abusing myself, and two, or somebody else, or to be optimizing the benefits I can get from my mobility work. A lot of these things people don't really think about too much. For example, people look at foam rollers as being a torture device because they use them wrong. Using a foam roller should not be painful. You should not create pain when you're doing mobility work. The only exception to that is when you're using voodoo floss, and that will be painful. That's the nature of it. If you look at a foam roller and you think that's a torture device, you have never used it correctly, you've never been coached on how to use it correctly. Remember, the very first thing that we do with a mobility sequence is that we go parasympathetic. We're trying to tamp down on our pain response. That's one of the first things that we're trying to manage, right? So we have an injury, we want to manage the pain. I don't manage my pain by creating more pain. Let's just say that I'm laying down on using my upper back on the foam roller, and that's creating a lot of pain. The more pain I create, the more my body clenches, and it resists the foam roller. So it will actively clench, it will actively resist the foam rolling. I don't want that because that's a waste of my time. That's counterproductive. I'm countering the effects. What I want to be able to do is relax into it, because the more relaxed I am, the more I can change, the more I can adapt. So this is what we call stay out of the pain cave. Now, if you've read Becoming a Supple Leopard, which you absolutely should do, stay out of the pain cave. You'll be familiar with a lot of these. So as a CrossFit mobility coach, I'll be going through a lot of the stuff. CrossFit mobility is no longer a thing, but anyways. So the rules of Mo. Very first thing, stay out of the pain cave. Do not be intentionally creating a lot of pain, because what happens when you're creating pain is that you clench and you will start to fight against it. So if I'm trying to stretch on my shoulder, but my shoulder's hurting so much because of what I'm doing to it that I'm clenching, well, I'm not getting any benefit from the band stretching my shoulder for me, because it's not stretching my shoulder for me. I'm clenching and resisting it, and now I've done 2 to 5 minutes of that, and I just wasted my time. In fact, my shoulder probably feels even worse because I was clenching it so much. Does that make sense? Stay out of the pain cave. We got to get rid of this idea that the mobility work is so painful and everything, because you're crushing your muscles and you can't crush them into submission, and we need to stop treating it like that. I use the foam roller as gently and lovingly as I can. It should just be creating gentle pressure in my tissues. That gentle pressure will lead to things being able to hydrate, because part of the reason why you have stiff tissues is that they become dehydrated, and the gentle massage actually pulls water back into your tissues. It's really cool. So if using the foam roller on the floor for your upper back is too much, go to the wall, or get someone else to do it if possible. Or use your own hands. It'd be kind of awkward for your upper back, but terrible example. Think about your chest. Use a massage ball. Use your hand. Don't smash your body into the floor. Use the wall or use your hand where you can control the pressure, but stop creating so much pain. We need to be looking at a foam roller and being like, oh my God, I can't wait to get on that because I feel so amazing during and after it. We need to have that kind of mindset towards it, okay? All right, so stay out of the pain cave. Go into your mobility work already thinking this. Stay out of the pain cave. I need to be gentle and loving to my body, because that's where I heal best. That's where I make changes and adaptations best, okay? I don't want to come out of this with a bad relationship with my mobility. Too many of you have a horrible relationship with your body. You can't look at yourself naked in the mirror and love yourself. In fact, you look at yourself naked in the mirror and you hate yourself. We need to change this relationship that we have. We look at the mobility work, the mobility tools, and we think either it's boring because you're not using it right, we'll talk about that in a moment, or because you think it's so painful. It's not supposed to be painful. All right, so next up, prioritize your spine. Prioritize your spine. And we talk a lot about your spinal alignment for maximizing my position. Like when I'm going to deadlift, I have to establish and create a neutral spine. And then as I'm hinging over, my spine does not move at all. I maintain that neutrality. When I'm doing my mobility work, it's the same deal. When my spine becomes heavily warped, either my position is so warped, my skeleton is so out of place that I create a bad position, and now I'm technically stiff and tight because my skeleton won't allow me to move, or because you create that neural stiffness, that nervous system stiffness, because you're in a bad position, your spine is now threatened, and so your brain, your central nervous system, makes you tight in order to try and stiffen up around the spine, and that's why you can't touch your toes, because you're bending over so much. So we need to make sure that we're not compromising our stiffness via compromising our spine, okay? So it's So, next part, number 3. If it feels sketchy, what does that mean? So you're doing your mobility work and it feels like, you know what? If I keep doing this, I feel like I'm going to make something worse. I feel like I'm going to pop something out of the socket. If I keep going that far, I feel I'm going to rip something. Maybe I should not continue doing that thing. If it feels sketchy, it is, in fact, sketchy. Funny that. This is what we call listening to your body, listening to your gut, listening to your instincts. If you feel like you're going to make something worse, use your best judgment. Probably don't do it, especially in this context. If you feel like you're going to pop something out of the socket, don't keep doing that. If you feel like the mobility work is going to make you rip something, you're abusing yourself. So if it feels sketchy, it is sketchy. 2 minutes per drill. This is another thing that people get wrong. They use a foam roller like they're rolling out dough, and there's like, imagine I'm rolling out my tricep, 10 seconds, okay, done, next. 2 minutes, slow and steady. 2 minutes. Slow, gentle, steady. Can it be any more clear there? When you're doing the banded distractions, like pulling on your hip joint or your ankle or your shoulder or whatever, 2 minutes, gently, slowly moving around. That's what you need to be doing. When you're using the foam roller on the back of your neck or on your glutes, 2 minutes per area. Like 2 minutes on one butt cheek, 2 minutes on the other butt cheek. That's what you need to be committing to, and it's slow, gentle pressure. This is not to be rushed through. If you need to rush through it, just simply decrease the amount of drills you're doing so that you get more quality benefit out of the 1 or 2 drills that you do, for example. Okay, next rule. Do not sacrifice posture for range. Do not sacrifice posture for range. What this means is, like, if we're going to the couch stretch, I don't bend my back to reach the wall and be like, oh, I'm touching the wall behind me with my upper back. No, that's why I have the rule for the couch stretch. It's lower back to the wall every time, keeping your knee snug and your shin vertical, knee snug to the wall, I mean. Okay, do not sacrifice your posture, because sometimes, like, we prioritize the spine, right? Because having a warped spine can create that nervous system stiffness, that neural tension, but not always. And some people can get away with that. Some people can sacrifice a lot of posture to say, hey, I can go a lot further, but you're not actually stretching the muscle. So if I go to, touch my toes, for example, and I bend my spine right away, a lot of men especially will get extremely stiff and tight, and they can barely even touch their own knees, especially if they have their knees locked out. Don't deadlift with your knees locked out, guys. It's very silly. Some people, like myself at this point, I can hinge over starting from my spine and have my spine bent the entire way, and I can touch the floor behind my feet just fine. It's not an issue. But if I'm wanting to mobilize my hips, my hamstrings, my glutes, then that's kind of violating the mobility work, right? I need to go through deadlifting as if I'm getting ready for the best deadlift of my life, the most powerful deadlift of my life, and I'm trying to mobilize that position. So if I just simply bend my spine and say, oh yeah, I can touch my toes, well, that's not the objective, is it? The objective is cleaning up your shapes, cleaning up your posture so that you have better position. And that kind of leads into this one. Mobilize, with an S, not a Z, in the position, because I'm American and I still put Z's in a lot of these words, but I live in England, so I'm getting used to putting the S in that. So Americans will see that and be like, that's spelled wrong. Well, in England, it's spelt wrong with a T and an ED. Anyways, actually, it's spelt correctly. What are we doing? I'm getting distracted. Mobilize in the position of restriction. So let's carry on with the deadlift idea, restriction, because we're testing our shapes and I'm trying to improve my body shape. So I'm trying to deadlift as well as I possibly can. And let's say I can only hinge over this far. I'm trying to mobilize in that position, in that where I'm restricted in that position and I don't like hinge over my body to be like, oh, I can go further. I mobilize in that position. I'm trying to improve that position. Does that make sense? Last little bit. Or was that everything? No, I got 7. Okay, I'm going through my list on paper. Stay out of the pain cave, check. Prioritize spinal alignment, check. Ah, got it. I skipped one in the list. Anyways, this should be number 2. We use mobility. These last 3 kind of like really closely come together. We use mobility to test and retest position. And here's the thing, guys, is that we need to prove that what you're doing works. If you're not actively looking to improve a position, how do you know that things work? Because it feels better. Well, that's not good enough, because that's saying that you're relying on pain for saying yes or no, you have a problem. So I have a problem with my deadlift position. So I know I need to, mobilize, just for example, my hamstrings and glutes. That's easy to understand, my hips. If I just simply do the mobility work by itself, it's basically like doing that work in a vacuum. There's no context to it. So if I mobilize my hamstrings and my glutes, well, did that actually make my deadlift better? I don't know. So when I start off my mobility sequence, my routine, I test the position, and then I go through the mobility work, and then I retest the position. And now I know, did it help? Yes or no? Does that make sense? All right, rules of mobility. These are things to be constantly keeping in mind. There are some other things, but like these are the most important ones in my opinion, to really like drive home, folks, this is how it needs to be. These are the things that we need to be observing, especially stay out of the fucking pain cave. Stop intentionally hurting yourself with this stuff and developing a bad relationship and thinking that this stuff is really bad for you. People think like that. Anyways, take care, guys. If you suffer with chronic pain, chronic injuries, athletic injuries, I have got you covered. My name is Ethan Hammond, and I am a strength and rehab specialist. I work with people who want to return to sport and fitness, but feel that they can't because of pain and injuries. I've helped people with conditions such as lower back pain, ACL tears, shin splints, neck pain and chronic headaches, and so many more things. Now, a lot of you will be going through things like this, like what I just listed above, and you're saying that you cannot train anymore. Bullshit. You have got to train, and you've got to train right. Train or complain, that is the way this works. Now, I work in person in Southampton, England, but I have online services as well if you're a bit further out. And I also offer free consultations to get you started with a free game plan and strategy for getting out of pain. All you have to do is to send me a text or a WhatsApp message to 07 305 231 339, and I will personally get back to you in the next 24 hours to get you started on the road to proper recovery. If you are serious about leveling up and making real change, this is how you start.